We talk a lot about the things that we should add to our life on this channel, but today I want to talk about the things that I have cut out of my life over the past several years because they didn't align with the version of myself that I wanted to become. They didn't make me feel good and they were overall just low vibe. But what exactly does low vibe mean? When we talk about vibrations, it comes from a place of energetic alignment. Everything in this world is energy vibrating at different frequencies. So naturally, the things that we add to or subtract from our own life also affect our frequency and our vibration. There's this very famous map of consciousness that was given by this internationally renowned spiritual teacher and psychiatrist, David R Hawkins. And if you look at it, it shows the different states of energetic beings that we are, and it corresponds each state to an emotion. And you can see that all of these emotions like fear, guilt, anger are in the lower spectrum, in the low vibe spectrum. And as we move higher, we have higher emotions like joy, love, compassion, and enlightenment. And so the behaviors that I have actually cut out of my life fall on the low vibe spectrum here. Number one is alcohol. Now, I never consumed like large amounts of alcohol ever. That was never my vibe. I was never attracted to that kind of lifestyle, but I have had drinks here and there. But now I consciously avoid it. Maybe I'll have a drink or two once in like 6 months or something, but I consciously avoid drinking in almost every scenario. And it's actually a no-brainer why this is a low vibe behavior, mostly because alcohol is a poison, is a toxin that we are ingesting in our body, inducing in our body. It's not just bad for your health, but it completely unbalances your overall energy. You will almost always feel down in the dumps after you've spent a night drinking, right? You don't feel good about yourself. Plus, when you are in the act of drinking, when you're in the process of drinking, you are also a lot more susceptible to negative thoughts, to negative actions. There's a reason that a lot of violence, a lot of domestic violence is actually correlated with heavy amounts of alcohol drinking. And I did not want to exist in that state, so I cut it out. Number two is sad music. Now, music is an extremely powerful tool. It affects us so much on an emotional level. When you listen to happy music, you feel happy. When you listen to energetic music, you feel more energized. And that is why people listen to all of these peppy, high energy songs in the gym, right? It motivates them to work out. So similarly, when you listen to music that is sad, it touches some sort of sense. It makes you sad. And personally, I don't like to exist in that space. Unfortunately, there's a lot of music nowadays that is sad and depressing. So I actively avoid it. And I, continue to listen to either meditative music. When I'm working, it's more synthwave style, energetic music, or like lo-fi music. When I'm in the gym, it's like high energy songs. And generally, if I'm listening to music, it's more happy, peppy, folk song, pop culture vibes. Number three is low vibe content. And this is such a huge spectrum because most content out there is low vibe. It is geared to generate extreme emotions in us. And most of these extreme emotions are either anger or sadness or shock or fear. And I am absolutely not there for this shit. So if you look at social media content, I actively avoid celebrity stuff mostly because it's just gossip or other people commenting on the gossip and just gossiping amongst each other and fighting amongst each other. There is other content that is just created to get a reaction out of people. It is created to generate some sort of other extreme emotion. If you look at movies and TV shows, now I prefer watching comedies or rom-coms and mostly like light-hearted stuff on TV. I avoid horror, crime, anything that has too much blood and gore, really, because all of these things again generate those negative emotions and I don't want to exist in this state. This does not mean that I'll never watch a horror movie, or if something comes across me, I'll be like, oh my God, don't show it to me. No, I might, once in a while, but it's not actively a part of my life anymore. It used to be when I was in my teens and my 20s. I used to watch a lot of horror, but yeah, I don't anymore. Number four is self-deprecating humor. It is so easy to fall into the trap of this kind of humor where you make little jokes about yourself to avoid feeling awkward, to brush off a compliment, to make yourself more likable in the eyes of others. But you never realize when this becomes your default setting and your default way of thinking about your own self. I see so many creators, especially in the comedy space, making content, making people laugh by creating self-deprecating jokes. And on top of that, I see so many comments that people make about themselves that are self-deprecating. Yes, I completely agree that it's good to not take yourself seriously. It's very good to not take life so seriously. But you don't have to do that at your expense. You don't have to make jokes about it at your expensive. It actually makes me sad how little people think of themselves, because when you're continuously doing that, when you're continuously, making one joke after the other about how bad you are or how you are dumb or how you're not intelligent enough, all of those things, that is the script that you're feeding your mind again and again and again and again till it becomes the default setting. So I personally have made it a point to not write things like this about myself, not say things like this about myself. I'm still working on not consuming a lot of content that is based on self-deprecating humor, but that's a long winding road, and also it's a lot. So you'll get there one day, but you can also start with not saying this about yourself and not writing this about yourself. Number 5, and this is kind of linked to the previous one, is not excessively saying things that I don't want. For instance, if I'm constantly saying things like, life is hard and I don't feel good and I'm not pretty enough and I don't have enough money, or I'm poor and I'm broke, guess what? That will become my reality. Our thoughts and our words are so powerful, and how we use them has a profound impact on how we live, how we lead our lives. And while it is important to express your discomfort and your dissatisfaction, it does not help the situation if you're consistently in that zone where you're just wallowing in self-pity and just constantly negatively thinking about yourself. That just ensures that you're never able to come out of that mindset. Some people will say that, you're lying to yourself if you say everything is hunky-dory and it's all good. It is not lying to yourself if you focus more on the solution than on the problem, instead of using it as a crutch to stay in that same zone, in that zone of self-pity. That is low vibe, gotta cut it out. Number 6 is I stopped hanging out with low vibe people. I, for one, am very aware and sensitive to the vibe and the energy of people. And now it's reached a point where that's become like my default setting for assessing my interactions. Like whenever I interact with somebody new, I can instantly tell whether this is a person that I want to hang out with in the future, or if their energy does not match mine at all. I can tell whether they're more positive or they're more negative. And I also have a lot more clarity once I come back home and I assess that situation from the perspective of whether that interaction energized me or whether that drained me. If something has drained me, why would I want to do it again and again? And of course, there's always exceptions, you guys. Like if you are meeting this person in a social setting, or if this is somebody that you have to interact with at work, or if it's somebody in your family, those are interactions that you can't always get out of, but you can always limit them. You can limit how much time you spend on that interaction and how much time you spend afterwards when you come back from that interaction, whether you think a lot about it or whether you don't think a lot about it. And you can always use writing as a tool, journaling as a tool if something is bothering you beyond your capacity to handle. So when you write it down, you actually kind of get rid of it from your mind. It doesn't stay up here, it's on paper, and it's kind of out of your life as well. The next thing that I've cut out of my life are the 5 C's, which is complaining, criticizing, cursing, comparing, and crying. And by crying, I don't mean actually shedding tears, I mean whining. So what I have realized is that these 5 particular behaviors often keep you stuck in a self-victimizing zone. So when you're indulging in any of these behaviors, you're actually thinking of things from a place of a lack of fulfillment. And if you look at this energy map, it actually puts you right at the bottom of the pillar when you're going through any of these 5 C's. That's also the reason why after a bout of doing any of these things, you don't actually feel better about yourself. For example, let's say you've complained about something for an hour, or you've cursed somebody who did you wrong, or you have, cried it out, or you're criticizing this person. Even after you've done it for an hour, it's not like you magically feel better about yourself, and you want to keep doing it thinking that it'll make you feel good about yourself, but it is actually keeping you stuck in that zone. Because if you really felt better about yourself, you would not have gone back to it. But you did, which means you didn't feel good about yourself after doing it either. And this loop is exactly what we want to avoid. And this does not mean that I never do those things, right? I will never have a complaint about anybody, or I'll never criticize something that somebody has done. It just means that this is not a habit in my life. This is not my default setting when something goes wrong. It is not my idea of a solution when something is not going right. And when I do indulge in these behaviors as well, let's say I'm complaining about someone or I'm criticizing someone, I will remind myself to not wallow in it, not stay stuck in that zone, because staying stuck there is not helping me or the situation. And number 8, I have stopped consuming excessive self-help content. Now, when we are on this journey of self-growth, on becoming our best versions, of growing and evolving, self-help content, your videos, your books, your podcasts are extremely helpful. They are really powerful tools. But sometimes consuming this kind of content can go overboard and we can become excessive with it. And the sad reality is that consuming more of this content isn't going to magically make your life better. In fact, it can have the opposite effect, to the point where you start feeling like your life is never good enough, or you're never good enough, or you're never getting to your best self. And that can make us miss out on so much joy in life, so much lightheartedness in life. Because what happens is that we start taking life too seriously. We start believing that if you're not constantly evolving, not constantly growing, then we are doing something wrong, which is not the case. Because when you start thinking like that, the purpose of self-help goes away. You enter this heavy state where you're not feeling good about yourself. You enter a low vibe state. And that makes excessive self-help content consumption a low vibe behavior. Life is supposed to be lived. It is not a self-improvement project. And self-help content needs to be treated like seasoning that you put on your meal. It's not your whole meal. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what low vibe behaviors you want to cut out of your life, if you've cut any of the ones that I have mentioned, and what fun videos you would like to see from me next, because I think I want to start incorporating more fun, lighthearted content into my whole channel as well, because like I said, excessive self-help can get tiring for you and for me. So we might as well have some fun in life and create content that is also fun in nature. So let me know what you'd like to see. And don't forget to watch these videos next, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!